Welcome to episode 38 of the Self-Care 101 podcast with your host, Puja McClymont. Thank you so much for listening today. In this episode, I'm going to talk about how to create your new normal. Now, when I say new normal, I'm talking in inverted commas, your new normal. So that all those good things that you've gained from this time in lockdown aren't lost. Now, as lockdown starts to ease and more businesses are reopening, we're all slowly returning to normal. But what does normal look like? And do we really want to have the same normal that we had before? I'm going to cover navigating the job market if you've lost work, those online fitness classes that you're so passionate about, your relationships with your friends, family, lovers, and your reflections of how you spend your time. So let's get to it. If you've lost work, the first place that I would recommend that you start reviewing how things are going to change is by reflecting. So did you lose work in a field that is probably a bit, shaken up by this sort of event, a recession, pandemic, etc. I mean, a recession is more likely than another pandemic. So let's look in terms of recession proof. Was your job recession proof? If you've lost work, it probably wasn't. Is there anything you can do next time going in that's going to give you something that is more recession proof, so you don't have to go through this again, obviously, and you'll always have that security? Because the worst thing is to be working and then to be in that constant state of panic that you're going to lose your job. So do some reflective work. I say this all the time, write it down, write down what you're reflecting on, really get into the details of what's going on, how you've been feeling. Did you even enjoy the industry that you were in and the work that you were doing? Really go to town with it so that you are more ready to position yourself in the job market as it starts to open. I've personally noticed a big change on certain social platforms. So for me, LinkedIn is very much it's a business networking social platform, but I've found that it's been picking up in momentum in the last couple of weeks. So the sorts of people that have been posting in my network have been other coaches and people whose businesses are still quite resilient, but generally business owners. But in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed a lot more of people connecting with me personally. And I've not actually been posting very much on LinkedIn lately. I needed to sort of revisit my strategy there. But I found that very interesting because when you have momentum change, things start happening. I've also noticed like my inbox, so companies, brands that I sign up to, all of a sudden are starting to send me emails again, and they're letting me know that they're open and how they're open, what we're doing, etc. I mean, to be honest, Ryanair was the first one, and yes, they did get me excited. But anyway, let's not talk about travel right now. And I found that quite interesting that LinkedIn was picking up momentum, but it made me realize that perhaps with that momentum are more jobs coming our way, hopefully. All industries, I do believe, and a lot of economists are saying it too, most of the industries that have been hit hard are going to pick up. They're just going to pick up at a slower rate, obviously. So being patient, seeing how you can apply your skills in different ways is also very good. Go on to places like LinkedIn and see what your potential employers are talking about. What are the sorts of things that they're posting about? Can you add any value to the things that they are discussing? You don't have to say, oh, hey, can you give me a job, please? I'm out of work. Instead of that, actually engage with your potential employers in a more general context, but add value to the sorts of things that they're talking about. They're going to notice you more. And the way the LinkedIn algorithm works is if you engage with posts more often, those posts are going to be seen by the people that you're commenting on. So if that's a potential employer, that's the kind of person you want to be seeing your posts and your engagement and basically your name, your face all the time. The other way of using LinkedIn is to actually connect with the sorts of companies you would like to work for. So if you might be thinking of a change in industry, but you're in a sales job, for instance, you can obviously take those skills to any industry. So start working on your LinkedIn profile, because let's be honest, everybody goes to social media first to check out a prospective client. So make use of that. Get that profile of yours banging. There's so many coaches out there who will help you with really defining your LinkedIn positioning, your profile, the content you're posting, lots of free resources as well. So it's not like you need to be spending money you don't have. Look into those and really build this wonderful profile that is your shop window for yourself, and start positioning yourself in the industries that you would like to work in and engage with your potential employers. Now, when I say potential employers, I'm talking about the sorts of companies that you would like to work with. Those are the ones you need to engage with. They're the ones who need to see you. And with LinkedIn, the beauty of LinkedIn and its algorithm is that you can post multiple times a day. So don't even feel scared about it. If you've got content to share, if you've read something that's interesting and you want to add some comment to it, do that. Those are easy posts. Create your own content. Talk about things that you've experienced and how you see things changing in your industry. Go to town with it. Like, it's really easy, and you never know which post is going to be the one that gets people engaged. So see what other people are doing. Get yourself, some free online support on how to use LinkedIn, how to best use it, and you're going to go a really long way. Trust me, this is something that does work. You've just got to use the resources that are available to you. And don't forget, your recruitment agents, they're also on LinkedIn. They're also going to LinkedIn to look for prospective candidates. And if you've been showing up in their newsfeed every single day, then they're more likely to go, oh yeah, such and such could do this job. I could, recruit them, because they get their commission based on placing candidates. So, it's a win-win for everybody. So that's a really good place to start. The other thing I want to talk about with regards to losing work is, if you are someone, for instance, like in the travel industry, it's going to take a while for things to pick up and you can, get your roles again, obviously. Now, what else can you do? What other skills do you have? How can you, pivot? Because in the beginning of lockdown and all the pandemic drama, pivoting was something that a lot of business owners did. A company like mine will pivot, and it's easy to do, really, if you're sort of switched on and you are assessing the market and you're seeing how you can best serve the market right now. And if you can see there are ways for you to service your market right now, then explore them and see what you can offer to potential employers, essentially, and potential clients. Because right now, although things are going back to a normal or a new normal, there is still going to be some time until industries get back to, operating at the rate that they were operating. We might be looking at a year or two. So we've really got to find the best ways possible of using our skills and, getting work. Essentially, that's what it all falls down to, is getting work, getting paid, paying our bills, and, living life again. So you've got to explore what you can do now in terms of a pivot, if that's necessary, or a change of industry, and then brushing up all that admin, doing that admin, getting your CV ready, getting your profile on LinkedIn ready, networking with potential employers. You've got to do that work now, because you can miss a beat. There's only going to be a few jobs available in the industries that you're in if you've lost jobs. So how are you going to get noticed? Well, you need to get noticed. The next thing I want to talk about is online fitness classes. How are you going to sustain all this wonderful fitness that you've managed to incorporate into your life since working from home? Now, those of us who are still working from home, those of us who work in office-based jobs, so we're going to stay home longer, we have the opportunity to obviously continue with our online fitness. And I think this is probably one of the best things that's come out of lockdown. It's the accessibility. And I love how brands have really done well in this area, actually. I think fitness brands have done really, really well. The bigger brands I'm talking about, like Nike, because you are now able to access the classes that you would normally access, that you would run to straight after working in the office, 5 o'clock, and you've got a 5:15 or 5:30 class, you're running to get to your wellness center or your gym. And now you can work that time out a lot better because you're at home. How are you going to sustain it? You've got to look at that question, because at some point you're going to be going back into a workplace. At some point you're going to have to, rejig life a little bit. Does that mean that you'll be able to go to your wellness center? Probably. Yeah, it probably does. Hopefully does. How are you going to keep up with the parameters that hopefully, working from home has allowed you to have? Because when you work from home, you finish work at 5 o'clock, you're already at home. There's no commute. At the moment, there's no real kind of, let's go for a drink after work type of thing going on, so you can stick to these really good habits. Obviously, this is based on you wanting to stick to these habits. So if you do want to sustain them, really, really explore how you can do that. Doesn't mean that you do some exercise in the morning before you go into the office on an office day. Doesn't mean that you ramp it up on a weekend. Doesn't mean that you save yourself some money and only commit to a certain number of physical classes once wellness centers open. Really explore how you're going to do it, because the worst thing that could happen is that you start going with the flow of the momentum of going back to normal life, and then as you're getting back to normal life, you get caught into those bad habits again of missing classes, of going for drinks, which obviously that's gonna happen. You're gonna want to do that. I know that. I'm not saying that you won't be. To sustain this wonderful level of fitness that you have managed to carve for yourself, giving yourself that time. If you really do want to keep it up, make plans to keep it up from now. So before everything changes, do it now, because if you can do it now and you can sustain it now, it becomes a lot more normal for you. And then when you don't do it, you're going to miss it. And essentially that's the moment you're trying to get with, especially with fitness, with exercise. It's that, I miss it, and it really helps my stress management, or it's a really great way of starting my day. It gets my creativity juices flowing. Whatever it does for you, you need to have that reference point in order for you to be able to sustain it. So have a reflection on that. Right, so let's talk about relationships now. And I've broken relationships down into 3 categories. So it's relationships with friends, relationships with family, and relationships with lovers. Now, let's start with friendships. I want to say something, and I'm not sure if I've said it or not in a previous episode, but don't be so hard on people right now. Don't be too hard on your friends. If your friends are behaving in a way that you'd rather they didn't, that's probably because they're having a lot to contend with regarding the pandemic. Some people cope better in these sorts of situations than others, and you'll probably be seeing that come out in the either lack of communication with you or the quality of the communication with you. So just don't be so hard on them right now. Give them a minute. Let things start falling back into some level of normality, and then you can really do a hard review on whether those relationships you want to keep or not. Now, reviewing your friendships during this time is a really good thing to do as well, and what we're doing here is not sort of kicking out people that we don't like. It's just deciding how you want to spend time with those people, because right now we haven't spent a lot of time with our friends, and if we do a lot of socializing with our colleagues, who become friends, then things have obviously changed right now. I know there's been Zoom meetups and house party. But yes, there's been lots of, socializing available. Obviously it's different, but just be careful about how you want to spend time with them in the new normal. And mainly to be careful of not falling back into the same habits. So keep your boundaries. If you have found during this time in lockdown that you've actually enjoyed having some time away from friendships and not feeling so obliged to meet with people or socialize, then maybe that's a boundary that you need to create. So if life was very busy before, where you're trying to make plans with people and it's like weekend after weekend, you're booked up. Somebody contacts you in May and says, let's meet up. And your next available slot to socialize with a friend is in July. I mean, sometimes people want to meet up because they just want to meet up, and spontaneity can go a long way. Making plans is one thing, but not being available at any time for the people who need you is what makes, our mental well-being struggle, really. So if you can, keep your boundaries, be available for those who need you, and just be mindful of the way people have reacted during the pandemic. I wouldn't tarnish everybody with the same brush. People aren't going to handle things the way you do. Everybody is different. We're all going through a major crisis that we've never gone through. And it's important to have that compassion for each other so that the quality of your relationships will really stand out at that point. If you can really be compassionate towards each other, on the other side, you're going to know each other more, much better. Those connections are going to be so much more meaningful. Now with family, kind of similar to friendships, but just a little bit deeper. Have you noticed a difference in spending time with family than not? Now, for some of us, it's quite a nice thing to have had a break from family. But for others, it's not. You really do miss your family, your parents or cousins, whatever it is, but you really do miss them. So have you noticed a difference in the lack of spending time with your family? And what is it that you've noticed? What value do they bring into your life? Because something here I want to say, which I know is a bit controversial, but you don't have to like your family. You don't have to like them. So if you realize that during lockdown, actually, I've enjoyed not seeing them, then maybe that's a boundary that you create with regards to your relationships with your family members. That's okay. I'm not saying don't see them at all, but, perhaps that's a boundary that you need to create, that you'll see them once a month or twice a month. On the other hand, if you have missed them, if you know that you thrive being around them and you've missed that level of connection, then look at ways of making that a priority once we can start seeing more people, because that is what is feeding your values. That is what is giving you life, essentially. That is what is motivating you to be and to have purpose and really have good well-being. So that is a contributing factor. This is why lockdown has been a really good time for reflection if you've taken it, because you can actually take that bird's eye view. Shameless plug here, but this is the sort of thing that we do on my retreats. You're taking a bird's eye view of your life and finding ways to tweak it so that you can optimize your well-being. That's essentially what you're doing here. So if you've done that reflective work, you're going to know how rich your familial relationships really are. And if they're not, then you're going to be able to create really well thought out boundaries for moving forward. Now on to lovers. I don't know why my voice is getting deeper for that, but let's get sexy for a minute. Lovers. This time to reflect can be super useful if you're dating, because you can decide your self-worth and how you want to date. What I've noticed actually with clients talking to me, friends talking to me, that they don't actually like, a lot of my friends don't like dating apps. And I'm talking about people who are very young, the generations who've been born into technology, and my people who are a little bit older. They've all sort of said that we don't like the app's way of dating. There's something in certain websites and online dating that I know that friends have had better results and things, but essentially that app, it's just so visual based, you're not making a real connection. I hope people have tried, Zoom dating actually whilst in lockdown. I know there's a few friends who have mentioned it, so I will check up on them to see what that's brought, because I think that's a really interesting way of getting to know people. But essentially this is about you. We can't control other people, we can't control what people are going to do or say or be, but you can control yourself. And having this time to self-reflect, really hone in on your self-worth, what your wants are, what you want from a partner, where you're going to find that partner, what you need to do more of, what you need to do less of. If you don't like dating apps, delete them, do not use them. But then where are you going to find your partners? Where do they hang out? What do they do? If you're looking for somebody who shares similar interests, then go to places where there are similar interests. Now, I'm not saying physically go if that's not possible right now, but there are so many online groups, so many things available, platforms, forums, etc., that you can find where your like-minded person could be hanging about. And why not be there? Why not show up and be seen? Have a go at something like that. Vision boarding is a really great one to do for finding someone. It feels stupid when you're doing it because you feel like, oh, I shouldn't do a checklist. That's not how love's supposed to be. Well, we're trying to attract what we want to attract. And if you're going to attract that using visual imagery to do it, your brain's going to go, yep, that's what I want. So say you like brunettes, but you haven't put brunettes on your vision board, you'll just be seeing all and sundry, and you'll date all and sundry because you'll think, oh no, I'll just try this one out. And I shouldn't be so close-minded. It's not about being close-minded. It's about being preferential, what you like. So if you put brunettes on your vision board and you like brunettes, then you're going to see the brunettes more often. So when you're looking, for instance, at an app, or if you're out and about, you're going to pay more attention to the people that are representative on your vision board. And when you do that, you're going to get, date better. You're going to date better because you're going to be dating more of the type of person that you want to date. And you've got to believe it. So this is why I talk about self-worth first, because you've got to know what you want, how you want to be treated, what kind of partner you want, what kind of things you want to be doing, what your values are. And if you don't know any of that stuff, you're just dating in the dark. You're just dating in the dark. So let's not date in the dark. Let's go about changing that. Create those vision boards, hone in on your self-worth, what you want, what you don't want, and also reflect on the things that you've noticed about being alone. Because if you haven't enjoyed certain aspects of being alone, something I talk about is filling yourself up first, because somebody else can't give you that. They can't help you feel less lonely. You've got to do that. There are the physical aspects of being lonely, which is, if you're sitting at home alone every single day, day in, day out, that loneliness is definitely there. But it's changing that from a place of lack. So when you're feeling that loneliness, it's you're feeling like you're missing something, but actually really everything you need you can give yourself. But I understand, as human beings, we need community, we need touch and affection and all those things. So that's not something to negate. That's a definite, absolute, that we all need that. But how could you fill that time that you feel lonely with more meaningful activity that enriches your life and makes you good, makes you feel happy? Because if you go into a relationship expecting them to fill that void of loneliness, when they can't meet you for a particular date, you're going to feel that. That's going to hurt you because you're putting those eggs into that basket. So it's just a case of separating a little bit, seeing what you can do for yourself. What hobbies can you pick up? What hobbies have you picked up? What can you do that enriches your personal life, that when you do meet the right partner, when they come along, they're enhancing it. They are not doing all the things that are missing from your life. That's a really important thing to consider. If there's work you still need to do on yourself here, create a timeline. Actually create a timeline. Actually map out the work that you need to do on yourself, and then how much time you want to spend dating. And literally, I want to be with somebody serious by September next year. Put that down, because what you're doing here is you're creating your self-fulfilling prophecy, and this is the one you want, right? You don't want the one where, oh, I don't want to be single for the rest of my life, because that is going to perpetuate, and that's what's going to end up happening. If that's the constant thought, I don't want to be single, I hate being single, I wish I was in a relationship, then you're just going to get more of that lack. So change the game here by visualizing, by focusing on what you want, what you deserve. If you wanted to get killer abs, right, you have to do a certain amount of work. You've got to have some level of timeline, right? I want these killer abs by December this year because I want to wear X outfit, or I want to do a bodybuilding shoot, whatever it is, right? Whatever drives people to want killer abs. You would plan for it. So why not do that for dating success as well? That's all I'm saying here. The amount of time and effort we put into our physical appearance, be that, actually, no, time, effort, and money that we put into our physical appearances. We use the right lotions and the body washes and the pruning and the preening and, and what we're going to wear and the moisturizer we're going to use and our hair and so much. And, for the guys, their beards. All that work we put into our physical appearance when, sometimes we're actually let down by what's going on in our minds, but we don't tend to put the time in, the effort in, and the money, if necessary, to work on the stuff that's going on in our minds. And really, sometimes that's all that it is. It's just a case of working through the stuff that's going on in our heads, working through them, so that we are better, we feel better. And then when we're meeting people, we are meeting them almost at the best version of ourselves. I mean, we'll never be amazingly perfect or anything like that, but we're going to be better. We're going to know ourselves and we're going to know what we want in men and women. And we're not going to waste our time with the people that don't fit our profile for what we want in a partner. So give it that time. Why not? And lastly, I want to talk about your reflections of how you spend your time. I mentioned this earlier about when we say that we're so busy, right? When you can't book time in with a friend because you've got weekends booked in, consecutively. But the truth is, if you are busy, how much time are you spending on yourself and giving yourself some reflective time, some literal proper downtime to rest and recuperate? Because if you fill every weekend with social engagements, you're going to be busy, you're going to get tired, and you won't get enough rest. So how can you make the most of your time when you're going back into this level of normalcy, new normal, whatever you want to call it? How are you going to be able to give yourself the time that you need to be well? Because it's very easy to fall into old habits, very easy. And it's a comfort zone, it's familiar, we know it. So it's very easy to fall back into those sorts of habits. But if you know that was exhausting you, because sometimes we don't think that it's actually our social engagements that are exhausting us, but they are very draining. They are mentally draining on us because we go to work and then we socialize. And then when we socialize, we might talk about work. So we bring up work again. And then we're going to think about the personal life and what's going on and the improvements we want to make in our personal life. Oh, I need to lose a bit of weight. Oh, I want to get a partner. Oh, I want to go on holiday. I want to do all of those things add up to cause more stress in our minds. So where we're going to socialize to actually, relieve some stress, we end up stressing ourselves out more. And depending on the people that we spend our time with, our energy is going to be more depleted. So if you're socializing with people who are draining, you'll notice it in your physical body and your mind. Maybe reduce the amount of time you spend with those people. I mean, you've got to do what's right for you. But one of the best tips I can give you is right now, from now, to carve out the rest of your year with mini breaks. Now, whether you're going to travel or not travel, you can still do this. And the reason why I say carve it out is because you need to plot it into your diary. Actually physically put it into your diary. Wherever your diary lives, pop it in there so that when you're looking at the diary, you're not just looking at this empty space of uncertainty. Okay? Because things are still uncertain. Things are still not absolute right now. We don't really know what's going to happen. There's an idea, and that's what we're working towards. But if you can plan these mini breaks, it doesn't matter what's going on. You have given yourself adequate time to rest and be and not book in any appointments with people or work or family or friends, just time for yourself. Because if we don't give that time to ourselves, that's what's going to lead us to burning out. And especially as we all go back to some level of normalcy and back to work and shopping and all those wonderful things, we can easily burn out if we're not careful about looking after our well-being. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Now, the final thing I'm going to say is just one sentence. The only way that you can return to a new normal or create this new normal or be in this new normal space is to plan, and then plan some more. And if you do it now, it's done. It's done. You've done the planning. You've worked it out. So then as eventualities occur and things are changing, landscapes changing, what you can do, etc. changes, you've got a solid foundation of what you want your new normal to look like, and you're sticking to it as best you can. You've got to be kind to yourself here as well. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to start it. There's going to be tweaks to be made. But the fact that you're planning, you're laying these foundations, you're making this concerted effort means that you're more likely to sustain it. So have a think about that. Do your reflection work. Get your journals out and see what your new normal is going to look like. Thank you for listening to the Self-Care 101 podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would subscribe, rate and review so that other people like you can find the show. For more tips and tricks, you can follow me on the socials at Frankly Coaching, or visit my website to find out more about my coaching programs and how to work with me at franklycoaching.com. Talk to you soon.